vascular access by means of physical examination to detect physical signs that suggest the presence of dysfunction. Surveillance, on the other hand, is the periodic evaluation of the vascular access by using tests that may involve special instrumentation and for which an abnormal test result suggests the presence of dysfunction. Why do we need surveillance? As pointed out so many times, vascular access-related complications accounted for 15 to 25% of all admissions in CKD patients. Thrombosis increases healthcare spending and affects the quality of life. So coming to clinical monitoring is physical examination. A good fistula has a continuous thrill. It is compressible, soft, and is not pulsatile. A fistula collapses when the arm is elevated, and failure of the fistula to collapse suggests outflow stenosis. Absent thrill, discontinuous bruit, edema distal to the fistula, and aneurysmal proportion of the vein suggest access dysfunction. So carrying on with clinical monitoring, we first would like to discuss augmentation test. What is augmentation test? It is used to assess the inflow. On compressing the outflow segment of the AV fistula, the thrill is reduced and it becomes pulsatile. If there is no augmentation of the pulse, it suggests inflow stenosis, which may be the reason for intervention in as high as 1/3 of cases. We have a lot of diabetic patients, elderly, who have calcified veins, calcified vessels, arteries, and in them, inflow stenosis is also very important. With clinical monitoring, we can also judge accessory, we can also make out accessory veins. If on occluding the outflow, a thrill persists, it suggests presence of accessory veins, which may be an important cause of primary non-maturation of AV fistula. A juxta-anastomosic venous stenosis, which is the most common site of venous stenosis, is characterized by presence of a water hammer pulse, which should not be there in a normal fistula, and this pulse disappears abruptly as the stenosis is encountered. Presence of pseudoaneurysm is commoner than true aneurysms, much more common than true aneurysms, and indicates improper hemostasis. Cannulating an access to assess for flow is unacceptable. Clinical monitoring also has two other components, which are the problems which we may be facing during dialysis sessions. There may be difficulty in cannulation, as was rightly pointed. The technicians will keep on using the same site. There may be aspiration of clots. There may be inability to reach target blood flow and prolonged bleeding from puncture sites. An unexplained more than 0.2% decrease, 0.2 decrease in KT by V on a constant dialysis prescription also suggests access dysfunction. So what are the disadvantages of clinical monitoring? It is not reproducible and it requires motivation. It is considered less accurate for fistula than grafts in stenosis, partly explained by decreased frequency of stenosis in fistula. One study evaluated 543 fistulograms in 358 grafts and 185 fistulas. The positive predictive value for greater than 50% stenosis, which is considered to be functionally and hemodynamically significant, was only 39% for fistulas as compared with 69% for grafts. But I think we should not be demoralized. There was one study which was done by Arif et al. In 2007, and this was published in the Clinical Journal of American Society of Nephrology. There they evaluated 142 patients with access dysfunction. Complete physical examination was done by an intervention nephrologist. It included inspection, palpation, auscultation, augmentation, and arm elevation. Antegrade and retrograde angiography was done from the feeding artery. Stenosis was defined as lumen narrowing more than 50%, and both sets of results were reviewed by an independent reviewer. And the good thing of the study was there was high positive predictive value for inflow stenosis as well as outflow stenosis. Although body stenosis, the positive predictive value was very low. But still, substitute to good physical examination, and the more important thing is it is free of cost. It doesn't cost anything. So coming to the methods of surveillance, there are three major types of access surveillance, and they are intra-access blood flow monitoring, static dialysis venous pressure, and Doppler ultrasound. Access flow is governed by the pressure gradient between the artery and the central veins and the resistance in the access, and it is given by this formula. QA is delta P divided by R. There are several intra-access blood flow monitoring techniques like duplex Doppler ultrasound, MRI, variable flow Doppler ultrasound, ultrasound dilution technique, which comes by the name transonic, critline-free direct transcutaneous indicators, glucose pump infusion techniques, urea dilution techniques, and differential conductivity and inline dialysis, which are available in the machine itself. What is the principle for these dilution methods for direct flow measurements? Temporary reversal of blood flow lines forces obligatory recirculation through the axis. Percentage of recirculation depends on the ratio of blood pump speed to the access flow rate. Access flow rate can be algebraically calculated from percent recirculation and blood pump rate. There is a sensor placed on the downstream line to detect hematocrit, either conductivity, ultrasound pulse or temperature. A perturbation induced in the upstream blood line and detected downstream depends on the ratio of blood pump to access flow rate. This is what we are using at our center also, hematocrit dilution technique for access flow. A baseline sample is drawn from the hematocrit from the arterial needle after priming circuit. Arterial and venous needles connected in a reverse direction. The blood pump is set at 300 ml per minute and ultrafiltration is set at 0. After 12 seconds of infusing saline into the arterial needle, a second sample is drawn from the venous needle. Saline infusion rate QS can be calculated by this formula, and by normal dilution balance we can arrive at QA, which is the access blood flow, which is QS into HV by HA minus HV. This was validated in 30 subjects with 2 consecutive readings in a study and was compared with the gold standard technique for dilution, which is ultrasound dilution technique. And a good correlation was seen with ultrasound dilution technique and hematocrit dilution technique. Coming to ultrasound dilution technique, which I think is worldwide the most commonly used for access surveillance, it comes with the name transonic and is among the most commonly used. Cold saline is injected in dialysis needle after reversing the lines, and a sensor measures rates of change in temperature. Access flow is measured from the induced recirculation. The software calculates the area under the curve as a measure of recirculation and is given by this formula. QA is QP into 1 by R minus 1, where QPP is the blood pump flow and R is the degree of recirculation induced. Coming to Doppler ultrasound, it requires accurate measurement of cross-sectional diameter of the axis. It is highly operator dependent, but it's very useful because it can provide an anatomic assessment also of the fistula. It is costly and it cannot be used during the dialysis session. Duplex ultrasonography measures the peak systolic velocity on either side of an area of visual stenosis, and as per KDOQI guideline, a PSP ratio greater than 2 is suspicious for significant stenosis, which is more than 50. Coming to access flow protocol surveillance, access flow should be measured monthly. The patient should be referred for a fistulogram. If access flow of 1000 ml per minute is decreased by more than 25% over 4 months, then also the patient should be referred for a fistulogram. There is static intra-access pressure surveillance also. Establish a baseline and follow with trend analysis. What we do is calibration. Actually, we are not doing this very frequently. We are using the hematocrit dilution technique, and this is not being used in our center. Calibration of pressure transducers is done within plus minus 5 liters of mercury. We measure the mean arterial pressure in the contralateral arm. Intra-access pressures is basically a standardization of a ratio that's calculated compared to the mean arterial pressure, and then normally the intra-access pressure is less than 50% of the mean arterial pressure. So with this method we can calculate the intra-access pressure, and this is the formula, which it's quite cumbersome, that's why we are not using it. The above method is tedious, time consuming and not very user friendly, but there are sophisticated electronic transducers or a device consisting of a hydrophobic Leo lock which can be connected to an Android manometer for calculating the access pressures. And as per the KDOQI, in grafts, static venous pressure ratios more than 0.5 and arterial ratios more than 0.75 are indication for a fistulogram. In fistula, static venous pressure ratios more than 0.34 and arterial ratios more than 0.43 are in the cutoff points. In central stenosis with good collateral circulation, the intra-access pressures would not rise because there are collaterals, and these are the situations where clinical examination is of utmost importance. So what does the KDOQI suggest? Physical examination to detect dysfunction in fistula and grafts at least monthly by a qualified individual. For surveillance of grafts, the preferred methods are intra-access flow, directly measured or derived static venous dialysis pressure, and duplex ultrasound. Physical examination is also acceptable, and unstandardized dynamic venous pressures should not be used. For fistulas, direct flow measurements, physical examination and duplex ultrasound is preferred. Recirculation using the non-urea based dilution method and static pressures direct or derived are also acceptable. So what are the pitfalls of surveillance? Observational studies have shown improvement in graft thrombosis with surveillance, but graft thrombosis doesn't mean improvement in graft longevity. In a meta-analysis of 6 randomized trials comparing graft surveillance to clinical monitoring on graft outcome, 5 out of 6 showed no improvement in graft thrombosis. Current published evidence suggests surveillance with preemptive angioplasty did not improve graft thrombosis or longevity. There are conflicting results. These conflicting results may be due to high incidence of restenosis and probably due to advantages of intervention in newer grafts only. In older grafts, there is more neointimal hyperplasia and chances of restenosis are much higher. In contrast to grafts in fistula, the role of access surveillance appears to be more established, but still, larger randomized trials would be required to confirm whether surveillance techniques would improve longevity of vascular access. To end the session, whether surveillance can improve access survival is unproven. However, it fosters the ability to salvage vascular access sites through planning rather than urgent procedures or replacement, which is an important consideration for both physicians